Hello everyone, my name is Ricardo Montes, and today I'm going to be discussing our current trade relationships between the United States and China. For many of us, we seem to think that we're on good terms. In fact, many of our household items have the label made in China, and we can't complain about the price. However, behind these products is a darker side of China we need to consider. I'm here to tell you that China's business practices put America's economic and security interests at risk. China does though, by 1, rigging their economy, 2, monopolizing critical resources, and 3, resorting to cyber espionage. Now onto my first point. China rigs their economy to gain an advantage over other countries. China does so by inducing man-made inflation to control their economy that way. According to Simon Johnson, a professor at MIT Sloan School of Management, China has manipulated their currencies to keep their money value. This boosted their exports, limited imports, and led to large current account surpluses. But such intervention adversely affects trading partners and is currently barred under existing international rules. Unfortunately, those rules have been proven to be completely ineffective. China's manipulation of their currency directly affects us here at home. Their blatant disregard to international laws results in serious hits to our economy. More so, China has no plans in changing the way it does business. As Ohio State Senator Sherrod Brown explains, China is doing nothing to improve its compliance with the World Trade Organization's obligations and commercial rule of law, whether it be stopping currency manipulation or dismantling quotas, subsidies, or other unfair trading practices that favor Chinese enterprises at the expense of our workers and businesses. Now, if we lose our workers and businesses, we'll eventually have higher unemployment and lower exports. And by definition of economics, this is not a strong basis for a good economy. However, China does more to hurt our economy, which leads me to my second point. China creates monopolies of critical resources that control the world market, especially when it comes to rare earth metals. Now, rare earth metals are not like gold or silver or any of those type of materials. They're actually, despite their name, plentiful and are widely distributed around the world. China began recently to provide rare earth metals to foreign customers. In fact, their campaign is so aggressive that they supply nearly all of the world's rare earth metals. A 60-minute special featuring Leslie Stahl, a revered journalist, revealed that China has a virtual monopoly, roughly 90% of the mining, refining, and processing of rare earth metals, and in 2010 uses that power to disrupt the world's supply. It's especially troubling because it was the United States that provided the majority of rare earth metals in the first place. Now, rare earth metals are very important. They're almost in all of our technology, and demand for them are all-time high. They're used in computers, cell phones, satellites, aircraft, microwaves, light bulbs, chemical cleaners, wind turbines, batteries, and much, much more. Finding new suppliers for rare earth metals is too difficult for the United States to do. As Jeff Nesbitt, the former director of the National Science Foundation, explains, initial rare earth metals processing outside of China will remain limited because of technical difficulties, regulatory hurdles, and capital costs associated with the startup of new or dormant processing capabilities and facilities. Now, this basically renders us to being dependent on China's rare earth metals, much like we are dependent on foreign oil. Now, this is detrimental to our economic stability, and we need to remain on good terms with China to prevent an economic crisis like the oil crisis in 1973. Now, if you remember, the oil crisis occurred when several nations of the Middle East placed an embargo on us after actions we took against Iran, and that resulted in the quadrupling of oil prices. Now, of course, we don't want that to happen, so it is critical for us to be on good terms. However, will that remain so? That brings me to my final point, that China conducts cyber espionage on our secure networks and defense systems. Now, China, over the past 10 years, alleged groups from China, endorsed by the government, have repeatedly hacked our networks to steal trade secrets and critical information on our defense systems. Documents recently disclosed by the NSA show that China obtained more than 50 terabytes of data from the US defense and government networks, and most notably on the new F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. Now recall, the F-35 is the most expensive defense program to date. But not only did they get this information, they actually sold it to Chinese businesses and implemented our data to develop their own products. An article written by Bill Gritz of the Washington Times finds that these technologies were incorporated into the latest version of China's new J-20 stealth jet fighter. Now, China has gained our knowledge of our defense systems and developing ways to combat that. They can easily search for weaknesses and render our technology useless. Some could even say that with these new weapons, they could wage war against us. In addition, any tensions that could develop between the United States and China can easily cut off most of the products we use via the rare earth metals or all their exports by placing embargoes on us and our allies. Our security, our economy, and our way of lives are threatened by the Chinese government. Not only do you see how China is meant to affect us, I hope you can infer that is not for the best. China's business practices put our economic and security interests at risk by rigging their economy, monopolizing rare earth metals, and resorting to cyber espionage. So next time you purchase a Chinese product, consider the implications that can come from it. Thank you.
Right, Ricardo, I thought the proposition was very clear. There's an excellent preview. The body of the speech is also organized very effectively, and I thought you had terrific transitions between those main points, so it makes it very easy to follow and see how things are being developed. Your proof on the first point depends on some opinion evidence that you give a general good qualification for. On the second point on the monopolies issue, there's a piece of evidence in there that kind of explains what it is that you mean by this process, and I think that that piece of information needed to be interpreted a little bit more, because I still think there's some ambiguity as to how this works. But I do see that there is a clear relevance of this point to the claim that you're making. And then the third claim, you've got some good illustrations to make your point there, and I thought you did a good job in presenting those. Although there were a couple of places where the citations are a little ambiguous. You know, reference to the NSA, for instance, and the particular case of the sale, the products being put into the marketplace and then developing these kinds of things. That's a little generic. I know it comes from someplace, and I think you'd like to have a little bit sharper citation on that. The presentation is very solid. You do some reading, but I think you generally make an effort to try to connect with the audience, and I thought that there was an excellent summary of the argument at the end of the speech. Thank you.